last time we were talking about verse 11. Verses 10, 11, 12 and 13 are all on very much the same subject. In verse 10, Bhagavan said, leaving ignorance, knowledge does not exist. That means, when he says leaving, it's used there in the sense of without. Without ignorance, knowledge does not exist. Without knowledge, that ignorance does not exist. Only the knowledge that knows oneself, who is the first, as to whom are that knowledge and ignorance, is knowledge. Knowledge is there used in the sense of awareness. So only the awareness that knows oneself, who is the first to arise, that is oneself, to whom are that knowledge and ignorance, by investigating to whom are that knowledge and ignorance, is real knowledge. In verse 11 he says, without knowing oneself who knows, knowing other things is ignorance. Can it be, or is it knowledge? When one knows oneself, the support for knowledge and ignorance, knowledge and ignorance will cease. And now in verse 12, what he says is, there are actually four or actually 5 sentences in this verse. I will read them sentence by sentence. In the first sentence he says, aṟivu aṟiyāmaiyum aṭṛadu aṟivu vāmē, which means what is devoid of knowledge and ignorance is actually knowledge. There again, knowledge means in the sense of awareness. So what he implies in this sentence is the awareness, or what is devoid of knowledge and ignorance about anything other than itself, is actually awareness, real awareness. So what he implies here is that only the awareness that is only the awareness that is aware the real awareness is only the awareness that is devoid of knowledge and ignorance of other things. When he talks of knowledge and ignorance, he's talking, that's obviously a dyad, a pair of opposites. He's talking about knowledge and ignorance of things other than oneself. According to Bhagavan, real awareness has neither knowledge nor ignorance of any other thing, because real awareness alone actually exists. So in its view, there is no other thing either to know or to not know. So it is devoid of knowledge and ignorance. And to emphasize this point, in the Kaliwonga version, Bhagavan extended this sentence by adding the word aṟivaṛi, which is an intensified form of the adverb aṟa, which means completely, utterly, or entirely. So in its extended form, this sentence is aṟivaṛi aṛivu aṟiyāmaiyum aṭṛadu aṛivu vāmē. Aṟivaṛi there obviously qualifies aṭṛadu, that which is devoid. So what is completely devoid of knowledge and ignorance is real awareness, is actually awareness. Then in the next sentence, he says, aṟiyum uṇmai aṟivu āhādu. That means that which knows is not real knowledge or awareness. That which knows means that which knows things other than itself, namely the ego. The nature of the ego is, in sleep we don't know anything other than ourselves. All we are aware of in sleep is our own existence, I am. But as soon as we rise in either waking or dream, as this ego, we become aware of the appearance of other things. Bhagavan says that which is, he doesn't specify it here, but what he implies here is that which knows anything other than itself is not real awareness. Bhagavan often distinguished between real awareness and the semblance of awareness. In Advaita philosophy, one term that is often used is chidabhasa. That is often translated in English as a reflection of awareness. But abhasa means more than just reflection. Reflection is rather a secondary meaning. Its basic meaning in this context is likeness. When we look in a mirror, we see our likeness there. That is our reflection. So in that sense it means reflection, but that's not the primary meaning. The primary meaning of abhasa, in chittabhasa, is a likeness or an appearance, particularly a false appearance. So chittabhasa is a term that refers to the ego or mind, and it means it's a semblance of awareness. It's not real awareness. It seems to be awareness, but it's not actually awareness. Why it is not actually awareness? Because all the things of which the ego is aware are just its own projection. When we're dreaming, for example, we may seem to know so many things, but when we wake up, all that we learnt in dream, we know to be invalid. It seemed to be true so long as the dream world seemed to be real. So long as we were dreaming, the dream world seemed to be real. So all we knew there, all we were aware there, seemed to be real. But when we wake up, we know that all that we saw didn't actually exist. It was just a figment of our own imagination. So Bhagavan says this waking state is just like that. It is a mental projection. This is just another dream. So our knowing all the great knowledge we have, we learn in school and university, and throughout our life we're learning so many things. All this, according to Bhagavan, is only ignorance. It's not real knowledge or real awareness, because this is all a dream. And that here he emphasizes that which knows. That which knows means the ego. That which knows things other than itself is not real awareness. The real awareness is that which is completely devoid of knowledge and ignorance of other things. Then in the third sentence, this is a very, very a sentence with a very, very deep meaning. Aṛidaṛku, aṟivittaṛku, aṉṇiyam iṉṛḍāy avirvadāl, tān aṟivaḥum. The main clause of this sentence is tān aṛivaḥum. That means oneself is knowledge, or oneself is awareness. Oneself is real awareness is the implication. Because the main subject is tān, we have to take that as the subject for the first clause, which is an adverbial clause of giving a reason, because. So because oneself, there oneself means one's real nature, because one's real nature shines without aṉṇiyam means anything other than itself, without any other thing. Aṛivittaṛku literally means foreknowing, but in English it's more natural to say to know, but we can say foreknowing, since it shines without anything else for knowing or for causing to know. Aṛivittaṛku means for causing to know. Oneself is real awareness. There are several points here. The first point is Bhagavan is emphasizing the non-existence of anything other than ourselves. Nothing other than ourselves actually exists. Though other things seem to exist, they are just an illusory appearance. Just like everything that we see in a dream is just an illusory appearance, everything that we see in this in what now sorry, in what now seems to us to be the waking state, this is all just an illusory appearance, like everything we see in a dream. Even when we're dreaming, the dream seems to be real. We seem to be awake when we're dreaming. Only when we wake up, when we come from one dream to another dream, then we know the previous dream was just a dream. and the present dream then seems to be a dream. I mean, it seems to be a waking state. That is always the nature of dreams. So firstly, Bhagavan emphasizes the non-existence of anything other than ourselves. And since nothing other than ourselves exists, there's nothing for us to know, which is what aṟivittaṛku means. And there's also nothing, aṟidaṛku means for us to know. Aṟivittaṛku, that is a causative form of aṟivu. It means to cause to know. But though it means to cause to know, it's generally used in the sense of making known. And in an article I wrote about this verse a year or so back, I analysed this. What are all the different ways we can interpret this? There are 7 different ways. It means that our real nature is without another for oneself to make anything else known to oneself, without another for oneself to make oneself known to anything else, without another for oneself to make anything else known to anything else, without another for anything else to make anything else known to oneself, without another for anything else to make oneself known to anything else, without another for anything else to make anything else known to anything else, without another for anything else to make oneself known to oneself. That is, all these apply. There's absolutely nothing else to be made known in our real state. That is the truth. This is Bhagavan said very much a very similar thing in the verse 27 of Upadesh Undiya, which is actually verse 27 of Upadesh Undiya is actually a bit more similar to the first sentence, but it's connected with this sentence also. In that verse he says, aṛivu aṟiyāmaiyum aṟivaṛi aṛivaḥum. That means only the awareness that is devoid of knowledge and ignorance is awareness. That implies real awareness. Uṇmai. This is the truth. This is the reality. This is real. This is what is real. That awareness alone is real. And then he says in the final sentence, he says, aṛivaḍaṛku ondrum illē. There's nothing to know. So that final sentence is similar to what he says here, but here he says it more comprehensively. So since there's nothing else for us to know, our real nature is real awareness. That's in sleep we seem to know nothing other than ourselves. But according to, and so we generally take sleep to be a state of ignorance. But according to Bhagavan, sleep is not a state of ignorance, it's a state of pure awareness. Knowing anything other than ourselves, that is ignorance. That is not pure awareness, not real awareness. And then in the next sentence he says a very short thing, pāṛaṉ. Pāṛaṉ, we can take it as it is not a void, but since the subject of the previous sentence was time, it's connected with that, so we can take it as one is not a void, oneself is not a void. Here the Tamil word pār means void, emptiness, dissolution, nothingness or non-existence. Bhagavan is referring here to a concept that is was very central to certain forms of Buddhist philosophy, not all forms of Buddhist philosophy, but certain forms of Buddhist philosophy. I think particularly Nagarjuna's philosophy, but I don't know so much about the history of Indian philosophy. But one of their central things is that everything is void, everything is sunyam, and the term they use is svabhava sunya, svabhava sunyata. That is empty of any nature of its own. but this Bhagavan denies here. Though real awareness is completely devoid of any knowledge and ignorance, it is not void. It has it. That is the real svabhava. So the very fact that things seem to exist means there must be something that actually exists. And what is it that actually exists? Whatever seems to exist could all be an illusion. Whatever we perceive, whatever appears and disappears could all be an illusion. And according to Bhagavan, it is all an illusion. But, and according to Bhagavan, not only everything that appears and disappears, including the awareness of things other than ourselves. The awareness of things other than ourselves is the ego. It's the ego that is aware of other things. So that is all, it is all just an illusion. It's not real. But in order for all this, in order for the ego and all these phenomena to seem to exist, there must be something that actually exists. And as he said in verse 7, that which shines as the place or the base or the space for the rising, for the appearing and disappearing of the world and the awareness of the world, that means the mind, that is the reality, that is the portal, the real substance. So that is not void, though it's devoid of any phenomena, or it's devoid of subject and object, but it's not devoid of svabhava. That itself is svabhava. That itself is our own real nature. So Bhagavan, there's just two words in this sentence, pāṛaṉ, but Bhagavan is repudiating a whole philosophy in this one sentence. The reason for that, he doesn't explicitly state the reasons, but the whole of Uڵḷadu Nāṛpadu, if we understand Uڵḷadu Nāṛpadu correctly, we will clearly see what is the reason for what Bhagavan says here. A lot of the philosophical arguments in Uڵḷadu Nāṛpadu are implicit rather than explicit, and it's for us to think about it and to understand the reasons for what Bhagavan. I mean, in many places he does explicitly give reasons, but wherever he doesn't give explicit reasons, it's for us to infer that from other verses of Uڵḷadu Nāṛpadu and other teachings of Bhagavan. And then he ends this with a one-word sentence, aṟivaṛi. Aṟivaṛi is the root of the verb that means to know or to be aware, and this root and the root of verbs is often used as a simple imperative. So aṟivaṛi here means know or be aware. In the kaṛivittaṛ version, Bhagavan extended this word, this aṟivaṛi, to be aṟivaṛi. Aṟivaṛi is a second person singular future or predictive form of the verb, and it's also an optative or more courteous imperative. So whereas in the original he just said know or be aware, here he says may you know or may you be aware. So it just slightly changes the flavour but doesn't actually change the meaning. What does Bhagavan ask us to know? We could take it to mean he's asking us to know all that he says in this verse, to think deeply about it and to understand it. That's one meaning. Other meaning is to know oneself as one really is, and thereby understand the truth of the statement that our real nature shines without anything else to know or to make known, and it's therefore real awareness, and it is not a void, in spite of being devoid of everything else. So this is this verse has a very, very deep meaning, well, almost all the verses of Uڵḷadu are very, very deep in meaning. There's a lot more to the verse than we'll see at first glance. In ancient days, a lot of the core philosophical principles were written in sutras. There are so many sutras. There's the Brahma Sutras. It's explaining the basic principles of Vedanta, and there's Yoga Sutras explaining basic principles of yoga, and so many other sutras were there. Uڵḷadu Nāṛpadu is the same, belongs to the same type of literature. Bhagavan is packing a lot of meaning into very, very simple aphorisms almost. He does give some reasons, but it's so much meaning is packed in them. So Uڵḷadu Nāṛpadu is a text that the more we read it, the more we think about it, and most importantly, the more we put into practice the path that Bhagavan shows us in Uڵḷadu Nāṛpadu, the more clearly we'll understand it, and the more meaning we'll see in every verse, in every word in it. So I think I've talked enough. If any of you have any questions. Yes?
So, Michael, number one in this verse says the real nature of self
yes.
is not void,
yeah.
not shunyata.
It is not void. It is not void, he says.
It's not void. But does he also imply that it's purnata? Like the way
he doesn't say in this verse, but in so many other verses. I just quoted to you what he says in verse 7. I'll read the whole of verse 7. We went through it a few months ago, but it's a very, very important verse. I'll just get the verse.
Does he just declare it's a purnata, or does he?
He says very clearly it's purnata. In what he says in verse 7, in verse 7 he uses the same word that he uses in this verse for knowledge, which is aṟivu. But in verse 7 he's using aṟivu to refer to, aṟivu means awareness, to refer to the mind, the ego, that which is aware of the world. Because that is the awareness that arises and subsides and appears and disappears. So what he says in verse 7 is, though the world and awareness arise and subside simultaneously, the world shines by awareness. And then in the next sentence he says, only that which shines without appearing or disappearing, as the place for the appearing and disappearing of the world and awareness, is the pāṛaṇ. Pāṛaṇ is a Tamil word. It means much the same as vastu in Sanskrit. It means the real substance. And he says in Tamil, he says pūṇḍramam pāṛaṇ. Pūṇḍram is a Tamil word which is derived from the Sanskrit word purna. So the real substance, the real vastu, is purna. He says very, very explicitly there. Because purna means the whole. It is the entirety. There is nothing other than that. That alone is real. Everything else is just a false appearance. But that false appearance, as he says in verse 13, which we'll be talking about next month, that false appearance, the awareness of many other things, couldn't exist without real awareness, just like all the many ornaments are unreal. What is real in the ornaments, the substance in the ornaments, is only gold. That alone is real according to Bhagavan. So the gold is the substance of all ornaments. That pure awareness, the real awareness that we actually are, that is the substance of all that it seems to be. So it is the infinite whole. There's nothing outside of that. There's nothing independent of that. Whatever whatever appears and disappears only in that. But it appears and disappears in whose view? Only in the view of the ego, which is itself one of the things that appears and disappears. It doesn't appear in the view of the real awareness, because the real awareness is clearly aware of itself as I alone am. That which alone exists must be whole, because there's nothing other than it to limit it. So it is the one infinite whole. In a certain sense, the Buddhist philosophy, there's a lot of, it's been interpreted in different ways by different people, but we can give a correct, we can interpret it in a way that would be correct according to Bhagavan. Everything else, all appearances are void. They have no nature of their own. But the nature of all of them, the svabhava of all of them, is the one infinite whole. So they have no, they're void of a particular svabhava. Like, for example, we're looking at a screen now. That screen, here we see images on the screen. All of that has no particular svabhava. It has no svabhava of its own. But the svabhava of what we see is the same as our own svabhava, which is just pure awareness. So it's not so much that the Buddhist philosophy was wrong. It's more a case that it was incomplete.
Or maybe the people who interpreted or wrote down the teachings got it wrong.
That's also possible. I don't say, I'm talking now about Buddhist philosophy, not about what Buddha taught. Nobody actually knows what Buddha taught, because even the oldest Buddhist text, the Pali, the Tipitaka as they call it in Pali, the three baskets, which means the three basic texts of Theravada Buddhism, they were all written a few hundred years after Buddha's lifetime. Even what was written in Bhagavan's lifetime, so many wrong accounts of his teachings were written. So there's no wonder that there's a lot of confusion about Buddha's teachings, and Buddhists themselves don't agree among themselves. There's so many schools of Buddhist philosophy. Because none of them really know what Buddha himself said, and even if they knew, whatever is said in words, it's our mind that interprets the meaning of the words. When someone wrote a very wrong commentary on Uڵḷadu Nāṛpadu, actually not on Uڵḷadu Nāṛpadu, on a incorrect Sanskrit translation of Uڵḷadu Nāṛpadu, and it was published by the ashram in 1931, Lakshman Sharma said to Bhagavan, if you allow this to be published by your ashram, will not people in future think that you have approved this? Bhagavan just smiled and said, according to the purity of the antakarana means the inner organ, the mind, the same teaching reflects in different ways. If you think you can write a better commentary, you can write your own commentary. So Bhagavan knew what that he says in words. It's going to be, each one of us can grasp it according to our capacity. That's why Bhagavan said the real teaching is not the word. The real teaching is only in silence. And that silence is always shining within us. And to the extent that we turn within to see the silence within ourselves, the silence there means our real nature, the more the clarity will shine in our mind, the more clearly we'll be able to understand Bhagavan's words. So Bhagavan often said his real teaching is silence, but he also gave us teaching in words. It's not an either or. We don't have to choose between Bhagavan's silence and Bhagavan's words. Bhagavan's silence is what enables us to understand his words, and his words are pointing us always back within where we will find the silence. So the teaching in words supplements the teaching in silence. Why such a supplementation is necessary? Because our minds are outward turned. Silence is complete in itself. It doesn't need anything else, but we need something else because our minds are outward turned.
Is it a wrong interpretation of silence in different contexts? Silence of mind leads to concentration and better understanding rather than verbal silence?
The silence Bhagavan is talking about is certainly not verbal silence. It is also not mental silence. It is beyond the silence Bhagavan is talking about. In that silence, there is no mind to be silent. So it is the absolute silence. And people think, oh, during meditation my mind was silent. Our minds are never silent except when we're asleep. Because the first rising in the mind is the first thought is the thought I, the ego. And so long as that I is there, experiencing the so-called silence, it is not pure silence. Because the rising of the I, the ego, is the first noise. That is what disturbs the silence, which is our real nature. So the silence isn't to be found in a calm mind. The silence is to be found only when the mind is dissolved, and the mind will dissolve only when we turn within. So what we are seeking when we're following Bhagavan's path is not any temporary experience. People often ask, what is your experience of self-inquiry? What have you experienced on this path? If we say anything, I've experienced this, I've experienced that, that is not self-inquiry. That is not, because what we are seeking is not something that appears and disappears, but what is always present. The experience we're seeking is what we're experiencing here and now. There's nothing new to be gained, Bhagavan often emphasized. Jnana is not a new knowledge. Jnana is just a shedding of all the false knowledge. So, Atmajnana or moksha, liberation, self-realization is not something to gain. It's not a state of gaining anything, it's a state of losing everything. And what is the root of everything? The ego. So only when we lose the ego, then we remain as we really are, and we haven't gained anything because it has always been ours. It's always been ourselves. We are already that.
Mike, some of the Advaita Vedanta teachers say that poetic the mind, as we understand it, as we have discussed today, is like a theoretical concept, something like it's like a limiting thing, but that cannot be achieved by any of us. So of course I think of Bhagavan as an example that contradicts that.
Yes.
But on the other hand, I ask myself if there has been any other being, any other, say, Bhagavan devotee, who has been able to achieve that quietness of mind. Can you comment a little bit on this?
Yes, but Bhagavan himself answered this. When people asked him about jnanis, Bhagavan said there is only one jnani, and you are that. We cannot find the jnani outside ourselves. If we point at the picture of Bhagavan and say that is a jnani, we are pointing at a form of flesh. That is not. Bhagavan used to say jnaname jnani. Jnana alone is the jnani. Jnana means that pure self-awareness. So it is not to be found outside. If in a dream, does it have any meaning if in dream you think this person is a jnani, this person is an ajnani, this person has realized himself, this person hasn't realized himself? It may seem real so long as you're dreaming, but when you wake up, you know that all the people you saw in the dream were just your own mental projection. So according to Bhagavan, even the outward form of Bhagavan, even his teachings, it's all our own mental projection. So when people ask Bhagavan, then what use is your teaching to us if it's all just in our dream? Bhagavan gave the analogy of the lion that appears in a dream of an elephant. There's a popular belief in India that elephants are so afraid of lions that if a lion appears in the dream of an elephant, the shock and fear will cause the elephant to wake up. So Bhagavan said the outward form of a guru and his teachings are like the lion appearing in the dream of an elephant. They are unreal, but they turn the mind within and thereby bring about the real awakening.
Thank you. I have forgotten that.
But this thing about nowadays, you see, there are so many jnanis in the world. If you go to any town, there'll be someone who will be proclaiming that, and most of the jnanis are in the lineage of Bhagavan. They'll claim that my guru was so and so, and his guru was Bhagavan. So they all claim to be representing Bhagavan. But none of them were representing Bhagavan, because Bhagavan himself says in a later verse of Uḷḷadu Nāṛpadu, to say I have known myself or I have not known myself, both are ground for ridicule. Because there are two selves, for one to be known the other. In Tamil there's a saying, Vindava Kandile, Kandava Vindile. That means those who say have not seen, those who have seen do not say. But from a business perspective, being a jnani is very, very profitable. You can make a lot of money nowadays if you set yourself. You want to. It's very easy. You probably know more than a lot of these people who are conducting satsangs and charging hundreds or thousands of dollars for 10 minutes on Skype or something. It's a business.
Thank you, Michael.
So this
all these jnanis, they're much wiser than us in business, but what they're lacking is the spiritual wisdom.
Right.
Sadhuam used to say a very nice thing. When people used to sometimes ask him, please come to our place and guide us, he used to say, who am I to guide anyone? When Bhagavan is there, if I rise up and say, I will guide you, that is, if we want to guide others, the proper way to guide them is to subside in our own heart. And he gave a nice analogy for that. In India, there's a popular story about when Alexander came to India. He had conquered so many countries, and eventually he conquered the land of King Puru in North India. And having defeated Puru, he asked him, how do you want to be treated? And Puru said, you treat me as a king. So Alexander treated him with respect, and then he said, in your country, what is the most valuable thing in your country? And King Puru said, in the hills over there, there's a cave, and in that cave there is an old man. He is the most valuable thing in this country. So Alexander was curious, so he wanted to go meet this man. So he called his generals, and he said, we're going tomorrow to this hill. And then King Puru said to him, if you go with all your retinue, you'll be able to see him, but you won't be able to see his greatness. If you want to see his greatness, you should go alone. So Alexander set off with just a few people, and when he came to the foot of the hill, he told his soldiers to stay behind, and he walked up the hill to where the cave was. And he saw this old man sitting at the entrance of the cave, crouching in the entrance of the cave. And Alexander came before him and said, I am Alexander the Great, I have conquered half the world. Whatever you want, I'm ready to give you. And the old man just kept quiet. And again Alexander repeated, I'm the most richest and powerful man in the world. I can give you anything you want. You just ask me and I will give it. The old man kept quiet. The third time Alexander asked, he said, I could give you my whole kingdom if you ask for it. And the old man just waved his hand, indicating to Alexander to step aside. And then Alexander was puzzled. What is that? Then the old man said, I'm an old man. I sleep in this cave. It is very cold at night. In the morning I come out and I crouch here in the morning sun to warm myself. You come and stand in front of me and cast a shadow on me. All I want from you is that you step aside. So also Sadhguru said, but like that, if we rise up with an idea, I will guide others, we are just casting a shadow on those people. The real guidance comes from Bhagavan, who is shining in the heart of each one of us. We don't need any intermediary to come and tell us, I will guide you. In other words, the subsidence of the ego is the real spiritual teaching. It's the spiritual practice and the spiritual teaching. Bhagavan of his own accord didn't give any teachings to anyone. Everything Bhagavan said or wrote, he was prompted to by people asked him questions, or they asked him to write something, and he wrote it in response to specific questions. And once when Bhagavan was saying, I haven't written anything except without any prompting, then someone said, oh, but Bhagavan, of your own accord you sang Arunachaksharam Lai, Arunachapatikam, Arunachashtakam. Bhagavan said, that wasn't of my own prompting. Just like you people are prompting me from outside, Arunacha was prompting me from within. Of my own accord, I haven't done anything. That is the real spiritual guidance, the non-rising of I.
Does this verse have any message that's similar to Adi Shankara's Bhaja Govindam?
I'm not so familiar with Bhaja Govindam. I know I've got many years ago I've read a translation of it, and I know one verse, Sat Sangatve Nissangatvam Nissangatve Nemo Hatvam Nischalatatve Tatvam Jivam Mukti. That's all I know.
There's more than 4 to be here. So
I think the message there is like it doesn't want that person to waste his time reading books and trying to seek all external knowledge.
Yes.
Just focus on.
Certainly. But that Bhagavan also said the same thing in Nāṇya. But what we are seeking is within ourselves. We can't. Books are outside. We can never get Atmajnana from books. But there are people now. Well, not only nowadays. It's always been in Advaita. There have been a school of thought, but it's a rather gross interpretation. They believe, but the problem is avidya, ignorance, and avidya can be removed only by vidya, knowledge. So only by studying all the books under a proper qualified guru, you can remove your ignorance. That is a very, very crude understanding of what is meant by vidya and avidya. Avidya is not just ignorance of Advaitic texts or ignorance of the correct interpretation of Advaitic texts, and vidya is not just a correct understanding of them. Avidya is the ego, our wrong, false awareness, I am this body, and that can be removed only by the correct awareness of ourself as we actually are. That can be found only within us. The books are only there to point us. Bhagavan says in Nāṇya, what is the use of reading books without limit? Bhagavan is not opposed to studying really useful things, but not going on and on. We don't need a lot of knowledge to follow Bhagavan's path. Bhagavan actually said, here it's not so much a matter of learning, but of unlearning. So when we study Uḷḷadu Nāṛpadu, we don't really we are rather, Uḷḷadu Nāṛpadu is rather a deconstruction of all our wrong ideas. Bhagavan is pointing out the fallacy of all our mistaken beliefs. Our first mistaken belief is I am this body, I am this person. And because we experience ourselves as this body, this whole world seems to be real. Bhagavan is in Uḷḷadu Nāṛpadu, Bhagavan shows us the fallacy of all these beliefs. So studying Uḷḷadu Nāṛpadu is a matter of not of learning but of unlearning.
Michael,
yes.
Since we know that in the deep sleep we have subsidence of the ego,
Yes.
and let's explain a few times how that subsidence is temporary and doesn't kill the ego for good.
Yes.
Can you explain the subtlety again? Just
Okay,
remind us?
well, sleep is a perfect state. The problem with sleep appears only in waking. The problem with sleep is that we've come out of sleep. Sleep is perfect in itself, but somehow we've come out of sleep. That is the problem we now face. So, how to avoid coming out of sleep? Well, first we've got to find out who is it who has come out? Who am I who seem to have risen out of sleep? So only by investigating ourselves, and when we see what we actually are, we will find that we have never risen from sleep. We have always been as we actually are. Sleep is our eternal state, according to Bhagavan. Because people want answers about sleep, it is said so many things are said in the older texts. It is said that in sleep, though the ego disappears, it's still the causal body remains. But for whom is the causal body? In sleep we don't experience any causal body. It's only an inference in the waking state, but we say, oh, there must have been something, there must have been the ego and all its vasanas must have been there in a seed form to sprout again. If that satisfies us, okay, that explanation is good, but according to Bhagavan, there's no ego at all in sleep. It's only from the perspective of the ego in waking that that the ego seems to have come out of sleep, and therefore we infer, oh, then it must have been there in a seed form in sleep. But one used to say, don't believe what you don't know. What we know is, now I've risen as this ego. I now seem to be this person. But we can, by analyzing our experience, we can clearly see this is our present experience of ourselves is a mistaken experience. Because if we were really this body, we couldn't experience ourselves, we couldn't be aware of ourselves without being aware of the body. But in dream, for example, we are aware of ourselves, but we're not aware of this body, we're aware of some other body. So the experience, I am this body, is clearly an illusion. So who actually am I? What actually am I? That's what we need to investigate. If we investigate it, this ego will dissolve, and we will find there never was any such thing. The ego seems to exist in its own view, and it seems to exist only when it's looking outwards. If it looks back at itself, it will find there's no such thing.
I'm just curious, so the way to the self, this perfect bliss, awareness, that seems to be through the ego, in the waking state.
Yes.
Like,
yes.
Right, this body-mind is what is trying to resolve this issue.
Yeah. The ego is the first rising. It is the root of everything. And even when we experience ourselves as this ego, now I experience myself, I am Michael. Michael is obviously a false appearance. Michael comes and goes, so he can't be real. But in this false awareness, I am Michael, there is an element of reality. That is, I am. The awareness of our mere being. That is what is real. So in the ego, the real element of ego, one often said, ego is chit jada granti. Chit means the pure awareness. Jada means what is insentient, in other words, the body. When these two get mixed together as if they're one, it's a big tangled knot. So that's called chit jada granti, that is the ego. So even when we experience ourselves as this ego, we are still experiencing ourselves. We're still aware of ourselves. So we've got to untangle ourselves from all these adjuncts, the things that appear and disappear.
So who has to untangle themselves? The ego has to untangle.
The ego has to untangle. The problem is only for ego. For Brahman has no problem. Brahman doesn't need to do Atma Vichara or Brahma Vichara. It's only the ego that needs to do. But since it is Brahman appearing in the form, Atma Sarupa appearing in the form of ego, it's only by the ego looking at itself that it can dissolve itself. Okay.
Michael,
So sorry, can I just finish one thing? A very, very simple analogy. You see a snake on a path. Bhagavan tells you it's not a snake, it's just a rope. But still you're afraid, because to you it looks like a snake. What is the way to overcome your fear? The only way is to look very, very carefully at that snake. When you look very carefully at the snake, you'll see that it's only a rope. So if we look very, very carefully at this ego, we'll see that it is only Brahman. So the ego is the ego is the only doorway to liberation. Though the ego is false as ego, it's got that crucial element of reality, which is the self-awareness. That is what we have to cling to. That self-awareness that's shining in us as I, that is Bhagavan. That is the real Swarupa of Bhagavan.
So that's a very difficult path actually, because when we say I am Michael,
yeah.
Michael is trying to get rid of Michael, trying to live only I am myself, right?
No,
so
it's not Michael who's trying to get rid of Michael. It's the ego who says I am Michael is trying to find out what it really is. Michael is just a phenomenon. Appears and disappears. Michael appears in waking and disappears in sleep. But who is it who has risen and said, I am Michael? It's not Michael we have to investigate. We have to investigate the I who says, I am Michael.
Can that be known, though? The I that says, I am Michael, or this, can that actually be known? Can that be found?
Well, no, you can't. Because if you look for it, everyone says, Pedinal autum pidicum. That means if sought, it takes flight. We can never actually find the ego, but we can look for it. And if we look for it, you can never actually see the snake. Because it looks to you like you're looking at the snake, but if you look at it carefully enough, if you want to see what type of snake it is it a grass snake or a rattlesnake or a cobra? If you look at it very carefully, see what type of snake is it? What type of snake will you find it to be? You won't find any snake at all. You'll just find the rope.
Michael, just exploring this Chit Jara Granthi a little further.
Yes.
Can life exist without awareness? Life in the sense something that can evolve and can procreate. That's life. And is it just our dream? Again, the life itself or the constructs of...
It's all a dream. But the question is, who is the dreamer? We need to investigate the dreamer. Who am I who is dreaming this? The awareness is always there, but now the awareness is, the pure awareness is mixed with awareness of other things. What we need to experience is pure awareness, which is our real nature. In order to experience ourselves with pure awareness, we must withdraw our attention from everything else and fix it only on ourselves. That is the path of Atma-vichara, self-investigation.
And Michael, when Bhagavan was in his form, a lot of people were able to experience that in his presence, right? But through his glance or through his grace, I understand Bhagavan is ever present, he's here now as he was before, maybe even before. But nonetheless, there were millions of people who came and saw the name and form of Bhagavan and experienced that withdrawal of attention, though temporarily. I understand they have to search themselves, but they were able to at least taste it, so they can kind of know what it is for them to even do it. Or
when Bhagavan was about to leave the body, and people were weeping and praying to him not to leave, he said, "Where can I go? I am here." Bhagavan is always with us. Sadhuam used to say, people often used to say, "Oh, you were very fortunate, you were with Bhagavan, where we didn't have that fortune of seeing Bhagavan." Sadhuam used to say, those who didn't see Bhagavan are fortunate, because those who saw Bhagavan in name and form, there was a subtle maya. They took that name and form to be Bhagavan. For example, Sadhuam said, he used to compose songs. And if he came to Bhagavan and he sang his song in front of Bhagavan, he was happy, thinking Bhagavan has heard the song. But then he would reflect on himself, how foolish am I to think that Bhagavan hears the song only when I sing it in front of him, when he is always shining in me as I. This song, where did this song come from? It's not from him. So long as when I came to the ashram in the mid-70s, at that time there were so many people who had been with Bhagavan, some of them for 30, 40, 50 years. There were a lot of very, very big egos there. And even among the old devotees, like Sadhuam was with Bhagavan only during the last 4 years. So there were older devotees who said, oh, who's Sadhuam? He was only a latecomer. As if the number of years we're with Bhagavan is what matters. Bhagavan said in one verse in Guru Vachkovai, just like the shadow at the foot of a lamp, there are those who spend their whole life at the feet of a Jnana Guru, but still their ignorance isn't removed. So it's not the physical presence of Bhagavan that is important. Bhagavan is always present in us as I. So long as we take the outward form of Bhagavan, the outward physical presence of Bhagavan to be his presence, we haven't understood what his real presence is. I'm sure you're correct in what you said. There were so many people who would have come to Bhagavan and would have attained jnana. We wouldn't know anything about them. They don't go advertising. There are some people who say, oh, I sat in front of Bhagavan for 5 minutes and I got enlightenment. Those people are the ones who didn't get enlightened. Those who really got enlightened won't say anything. So, in one verse, Murugan sang, because the ever unborn has taken birth, countless of the never dyings have died. The ever unborn is Bhagavan, because Bhagavan, that pure Parabrahman, has taken birth. Many of the never dying egos have died. So we don't know how many people have been swallowed by Bhagavan. But his work of swallowing us didn't stop on April 14th, 1950. People who think the physical presence of the Guru is necessary haven't understood what Guru is. Bhagavan gave a very, very refined view, of a very, very refined understanding of what is Guru. Guru is your own self. Your own self may appear outside in human form to give teachings to turn within, but the Guru is always within you. You don't have to go out looking for the enlightened master to find it. So long as we're looking for it outside ourselves, we've missed the point of Bhagavan's teaching. Because the whole point of Bhagavan's teaching is everything you're looking for is within you. You cannot find it outside. It is only within. But of course, for the would-be gurus, it's very necessary for them to say, oh, the physical presence of a living guru is necessary, because if they tell you the truth, but Bhagavan is always present in your heart, they'll lose all their followers and their revenue and everything.
That is an important, very, very important point. Because quite often I get this need for physical presence of Bhagavan and someone else. I think you really explained it well. Thanks for that.
But still, just think of your words. Still, there is this infatuation with the human body, in the sense that still it's nice. I have to admit it. I would have loved to be able to meet Bhagavan in person. To be like an experience. I don't have it.
But if it were good for us, he would have given that to us. The fact he didn't give that to us means it is better for him not to have. He knows what we need, and he can give it, and he does give it.
We should never feel that, thank you, we are not fortunate enough to be with God. We should never feel that. It's very important.
Actually, yeah, my mind tells me it's better not to have met Bhagavan in person because of this duality.
Yeah.
That's what my mind tells me.
Exactly, exactly.
It tells me otherwise.
That mind is the culprit. It's the mind which is standing between you and Bhagavan. You are Bhagavan. But because of the rising of the mind, you seem to be separate from Bhagavan.
Desire. That's also.
Yeah. Yes, and
I don't have any questions, but I do have an experience. So this is my second time attending, and thank you for the distinction between I am and I am Stephen. That distinction was powerful. And thank you for the distinction about dreams and in the sleep state. Because ironically, I had nightmares last night and hadn't had them in a long time. And you cleared up that attachment to what could it mean having nightmares. And so that's what I'm left with.
Stephen is here just, what is this, second day?
Yeah. So there was a lot in this, and there was a lot in yesterday. So I'm looking forward to a lot more.
Right.
Not, we'll probably let Michael take some rest. Thank you, Michael. Hope you feel better soon. And we'll meet again next month.
Happy New Year.
Sometimes some illness is good for us. It reminds us of how foolish it is of us to take this body as I.
That's good.
When everything is going smoothly and we forget.
I think these troubles to body and troubles to materialism are needed. It's sort of an essential thing.
All troubles are given by Bhagavan's grace for our own good.
That's right.
What did he say in Shamana, like Sri Ramana Nirvāna say the Sri Ramana.
Yes.
Oh, I'll let Michael translate. Oh, somebody asked, what does that mean?
Siya means greatness. So, destroying my greatness. Siri Nirvana making me nirvana. Nirvana means, nirvana means extinguished, but it also means naked. Making me naked. Arul Sire, give me the greatness of your grace. Sire can mean greatness. It can also mean clothing. So Sire, destroying my clothing and making me naked. Give me the clothing of your grace. So the clothing that the Bhagavan prays to have removed, destroyed, is all the adjuncts that make up the ego. When the ego is stripped of its adjunct and rendered naked, that is the greatness. That is the clothing of His grace, because that is our real nature.